do a drainage assessment for the Furnace Parkway. We'll have the results soon to recommend a course of action. Also, the men and I went to Millville Cemetery yesterday to assess the flagpole and have formulated a plan of attack. We will be able to move the Albion lift to the cemetery, repair the flagpole, and install a solar light on its top, plus a light at Mount Pleasant flagpole. I was able to attend Highway School in Ithaca earlier this month. Had 3 funerals this past month. CJ continues to flush and check PPMs. Finally, the never-ending stacking of e-waste. Thank you.
Julie, Assessor's Report.
Good evening. We had Grievance Day on May 29th. The Grievance Board saw 4 residents. There was 1 no-show, so it would have been 5 total. One of the residents did have 4 parcels, so in total there was 7 parcels that was brought to the board. Final roll will be set July 1st, and Town of Ridgeway is starting summer hours, so my office will be closing at 1:30 on Fridays until Labor Day. Any questions?
Is anyone from the planning board here tonight? Okay, no planning board. Code enforcement won't be here either. Okay. We move into resolutions. Resolution to approve the town clerk report for May. Is there a motion?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's carried. Resolution to approve town board minutes for May. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Just second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 That's carried. Resolution to approve to pay the claims against the town. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
I have a couple questions on them.
Okay.
So there's a Toshiba bill that looks like it might be for the copier, but there's 2 bills in there from 2023. One for, I think one might have been November and one December. And then there was an April.
Okay. November and December?
Yes, definitely 2023.
We'll have to ask Darlene. What, 2023. I know we signed a new contract in 2023. Is that what that was?
It didn't, no, it looked like a regular monthly invoice, but they were from 2023.
All right, I'll have to clarify that one.
Okay.
That was Toshiba?
Toshiba. I'm guessing it's I think it's the copier in her office.
Yeah, it's a,
The lease or rental.
yeah.
The other one is there's a Williamson Law invoice in there for a, I think it was like a support agreement. Are we planning on paying that before we have things resolved with them? It was $2,100. And I thought they weren't charging us until they got everything resolved.
That's what was going on. I will check.
It's an annual agreement that runs, I think it started June 1st through May 31st.
Okay, check.
It's a support agreement.
Other than those two, we'll find out about those two tonight.
And then the only other thing is, there's a monthly Verizon phone bill, but we're only seeing the front cover page of it, like just the total due. Can we get going forward, can we get the whole invoice printed
Yeah,
so we can see the entire thing?
I'll ask Darlene to print it out, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The whole invoice on Verizon?
Yes.
Okay. Verizon. Is that, I take it that's the GPS tracking?
No,
No?
it's definitely
Okay.
the cell phone bill.
Alright. Okay, we'll get an answer on those, actually, the Williamson might be, I don't know, I'll find out on that tonight, if we can find out, okay?
So does that mean you'll hold that bill out?
Those two bills, until we have an answer, we'll hold out on, yeah.
Okay.
Those two we'll hold out on. I know, Toshiba was screwed up because the readings weren't going in. They couldn't automatically get the readings and, Darlene wasn't getting an email from them to send the readings in, but I'm not sure if that's for that time frame
Okay.
or not. But those two bills we'll hold off on until we get an answer.
Okay.
We'll probably have to have, for those two bills, either tomorrow or Thursday, 3 of us are gonna have to show up to approve those bills, once
Okay.
we get an answer. Okay, other than those two bills, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain again because we
Okay.
still don't have the financial report to compare to.
Pam, that was carried except for Toshiba and Williamson. We're gonna hold off on those two bills. Okay, resolution to adopt the FOIL policy. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the policy.
Is there a second? Yeah. Okay, it's open for discussion.
So section 87 of the Public Officers Law, which is entitled Agency to Access Records, which is the FOIL law, says that the governing body of each public corporation must promulgate rules and regulations pertaining to the administration of the Freedom of Information Law for its own organization. And public corporations are defined in section 66 of the New York State General Construction Law. A public corporation is defined as a municipal corporation, which includes towns. So New York State expects all towns to adopt their own policy in terms of their own administration of the Freedom of Information Law. In other words, how they're going to... Okay, I won't get so close. So anyway, New York State expects each municipality, each agency that's subject to FOIL to have their own policy that governs how they administer FOIL requests in terms of how they take requests in, time period to respond, who's the records officer, how appeals are dealt with, etc. So that's why the town is proposing a FOIL policy. The FOIL policy is consistent with what the New York State Committee on Open Government publishes in the FOIL rules and regulations, so the policy is consistent with what is required under New York State law.
This was a holdover from, when was that, last summer?
Last summer.
Last summer. I asked Darlene, we thought this was passed already, it wasn't passed. That's why it's coming up now. This was done last year.
Yeah, do we have a copy of the last one we had last summer? I'd like to look at what kind of changes we made.
No changes were
Yeah.
made, that's it.
This is it. Yeah. The town never had a policy before this, so, and this is the one that was circulated last year. We thought it was approved. Darlene couldn't find a record of it, so that's why we're doing it now.
Now, does the state recommend for appeals solely the supervisor, or do they recommend the whole board should be, go over appeals, or how do they do that?
Hold on, Ed, she's checking.
Actually, does the state have the recommendations that we could look at off their website? We can get a copy off it, or
Everything is on the Committee of Open Government website. I think generally you can do whatever you want to do in that regard. I've not seen it done by committee, but you could certainly choose to handle appeals in any way that the board decided was best for the town.
This is in accordance with New York state law?
As written, it complies with New York state law, yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Jeff, you got a question? Steve, you got a question? Linda?
Yeah, so does this policy apply to the board too, or just the public?
In terms of what?
In
Does-
terms of getting information, like, is the board bound by the same policy if as a board member, we're trying to get, or need to look at things, is this a policy for everybody or just the public?
I wouldn't think so. Would you?
I don't know that
I
anybody's
wouldn't
ever
think
asked
so,
me
but,
that
yeah,
question,
I wouldn't think
so I don't have. That's something I would have to look up for you, Linda. I don't know that off the top of my head. Nobody's ever asked me that.
Okay. And then my other question is, what does I read this, but I'm not sure I understand. What does this mean as far as the public wants to come in and look at invoices? Do they have to FOIL every invoice? Do they come in and say, we want to see the invoices that are being voted on tonight, and they're put out? How does that work? Because there are people that want to see them. So how do they get to see the invoices?
So they would make a request pursuant to the policy to see invoices within a certain period, right? They would specify the dates for
Okay.
which they were looking to see those invoices, and then they would make that request to the town clerk as the policy is written, and the town clerk would process it in accordance with.
And then would they just be, it looks to me like you can come in and look at things, right? So they don't necessarily have to have copies made, they don't have to pay
Correct.
some fee, they could come and sit down.
That is correct. They
And-
can come in and look at things and not ask to have copies made.
Okay.
But they'd
And-
have to be sanitized first, right?
Yes. If they needed to be sanitized, they would have to be sanitized. Anything that needed certain information redacted,
Okay, yeah.
that information would need to be redacted.
And is that things like, I know Steve was concerned about, like account numbers?
Account numbers, yes.
So on
Any personal type of information that happened to be,
so on a Napa invoice or a Staples invoice, they'd have to, so then copies would have to be made of every invoice, because every invoice usually has an account number on it. And so then you're charging 25 cents a copy. So I guess my question is, and we've
Well,
heard.
that would be, not to interrupt you, Lynn, that would only be if they wanted a copy. We would have to make a copy to show them to sanitize, and then we'd just shred it after that, unless they wanted it.
So if Darlene is making a copy for them to just look at, and they're not leaving the building with it, there's no cost to them?
That's another question nobody's ever asked. I would say no, there would be no charge for copies unless they requested the copies
But
to
the fact
take
that a
with
copy
them.
has to be made is not gonna affect them.
That's how I would interpret it, correct. The fact that we have to make a copy to sanitize it should not be charged to the person requesting it. Because they're not taking it with them.
Okay, and then, kind of along those same lines, I think I saw in here somewhere where it talked about the amount of time. So if we're copying, I don't know how many invoices were back there today. 80, 90? So if she's making that many copies and it takes her
An hour.
a while. Okay, then I just want to make sure that that somehow we haven't missed something in here, that there's going to be a charge somehow for people to just come in and look at public records.
Again, no, if it's because we have to sanitize it, like to take a count number off of it, that's for the town's purposes.
Okay.
And there should not be a charge for that.
Okay, and being that the invoices are sitting there, if somebody gave enough notice and said, I want to be able to see the invoices that are being approved, certainly within a couple weeks, they should be able to have enough time to be able to see them prior to a meeting.
I guess that would be an administration or administrative question for Darlene, I guess.
I would think so.
Okay.
So what would they have to, like give a certain time frame before, so they get time to do that? I mean, sanitize? Like a couple weeks, or how would that work?
So it would be in accordance with the policy, so it would be however many days she has to respond, and then from there, right, you acknowledge the response within 5 days, and then, try to turn records around.
So based on this, I'm sorry, because I think we've had a previous conversation. Is there some
Can I see
kind of
this?
a records management, like a document control system in place that shows that information has been turned over to the records officer? I'm just
From board,
They're
like,
Just-
from
just
other entities within the
Anybody.
town to the clerk?
yes, and yes, whether it be
Darlene's a
from
records
the
manager.
supervisor, from the mail, like just.
So
Like
the
a-
town
like-
clerk is the records manager, and essentially she's responsible for all records of the town. As to how things get to her, I don't know. That's, again, the inner workings of the town clerk's office, so I'm not sure how
Okay.
she goes about doing that, but she is designated by statute. That's not even because of the FOIL law. She's designated by statute as the clerk. I shouldn't just refer to Darlene specifically, apologize. The town clerk
Position.
is designated
Okay.
as the position responsible for all of the records of the town and for managing all of the records of the town. As to how those records get to that individual, I don't know, and the statute doesn't
Okay.
say
Well-
how that has to happen.
Well, I know any resolutions we do, they're not finalized till Darlene finalizes them, stamps them. So she has the copies of all the original, every resolution I read, she makes them for me. So anything we work on, Darlene makes and gives to us. Any mail that comes in, Darlene opens the mail, so she gets the copies of it. Anything else, if anything else comes up, I hand it to her. Or, Pam, do you guys have a records? Pam's the deputy records clerk. Do you guys have a log for what you guys receive in for records management? Do you know? How, Darlene?
We have books that have, the whole listing of resolutions, what each one specifies, and they're all numbered according to years.
Plus, they're on computer also, aren't they? Everything is electronic, yeah.
But there's other things like the water study reports and things like that aren't necessarily
Most,
a resolution. So I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that there's a way to track that everything.
well, most everything, like, when we got the studies from, the stamp plant, for instance, everything comes to the town clerk. It's mailed to the town clerk, and then she disperses it to me after that. Nothing's,
But if she disperses it to you, I just don't understand the flow. If she disperses it to you, is that a copy so does she keep a copy, or
Oh, yeah.
you get it and then it goes back to her, or how does that?
I would
What's
imagine
the flow of
I would
information?
imagine she keeps a copy, but I'll find out. I'll ask her.
Yeah, because I just.
Now, is there a procedure that you guys sign off on each other? Like you get this and she signed, or you signed it, you received it and all that for accuracy? To make sure everybody got what they're supposed to get?
Do I sign for stuff? No, she makes me copies of stuff, so I don't know what she does. I can ask her.
I would like to see, I personally would like to see the appeals be 3 members of the board. Supervisor and 2 other, or just 3 people.
You good with that?
You can do however you want to do it.
Okay.
Certainly, absolutely, sure. It's your decision.
What do you think, Jeff? What do you want to do?
As far as the appeal process,
Appeals, yeah.
I don't see why supervisor couldn't handle that. We're gonna bring the board in every time we got an appeal.
Well, Linda's proposing it be supervisor plus 2 as opposed to the whole board, but
Yeah, 2 board members and a supervisor.
Because I just think if personally, I think that you're not just getting one opinion then. You've got a conglomerate of other, hopefully independent thoughts there that might think differently. Whereas if you leave it in one person's hands, then you've just got one.
Well, I can guarantee you, if I have an appeal, I'm not making the decision. The lawyer's making the decision. If it's legal, most likely it's gonna be legal to give it, and we'll just give it out. I don't make a decision like that. I get the opinion from the lawyer, and then I go off of what the lawyers say.
No offense, but you're asking us to be loyal to a person and not a process. And if the next supervisor might not feel the same way, so I think if we put the right process in place, regardless of who the people are.
What do you wanna do, Steve?
I don't have no problem with putting 3 members on the board.
You?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we'll have to amend that, right, the FOIL policy, if we do that?
yeah, we can do it now.
Okay.
You can just write it in. It says the town supervisor plus 2 members of the town board are the town's FOIL appeals board.
Okay.
I'd also like to find out if the board members should be exempt from this, as far as I'm concerned. They shouldn't have to foil for anything
Oh yeah, before we vote, we would.
before we vote.
Well, you either are or you aren't. Doesn't matter whether you vote on this now or not. You're either subject to it or you're not subject to it, whether you put it in place now or not.
Yeah, I'd like to find out if we are or
I
not.
heard you, I'm sorry, I didn't understand though. So,
So, either under the law, you're subject to this, regardless of whether you're on the board or you're not on the board.
so you're
So-
saying this mirrors New York state law, so.
Yes.
There's nothing different here that.
No. There's nothing in here that says it absolutely, totally applies to town board members. This complies with New York state law. It says what New York state law says. So if I go out and do the research and New York state law says
It applies.
it applies, then it applies because of that, not because of anything that's in here.
So if New York state law said it didn't, there's nothing in here that says it does.
That is
would
correct.
tie our hands.
Yes, that
Okay.
is correct.
Okay. Yep.
I'd still like to find out if the state requires it or before I can vote. I'll let them be definite.
State requires what?
That we have to foil for, or if we don't have to foil. I'd like to know what the state thinks.
Jeff, you wanna be on the committee? Well, we don't get it, doesn't have to have. I know, but I'm asking. Well, then you got experience. Hey, do you wanna do it?
Sure.
I wouldn't put that in the
I was just gonna say that.
policy though. It should
If
just
you put
be,
it in
as
policy,
I
then-
read it earlier, In a second on the floor, so you can choose to vote and Ed can abstain, or
Okay, so we have three-member panel. Supervisor, Ed, Zelani, okay, so we have a three-member panel. Supervisor Ed Zelani and Jeff Schiffer for FOIL.
I would do that as a separate resolution, though. So the resolution in second that is on the floor is to adopt the Freedom of Information Law policy. And then if you adopt the policy as modified, then you can
Okay,
do take another resolution in second for who you're appointing.
as modified as in, changing that. Okay, yes,
As
okay.
modified to reflect that the appeals process will be the
Three-member panel.
the
Yeah,
town
okay.
supervisor plus 2 board members is
Okay.
the town's FOIL appeals board.
Okay, so resolution to adopt the FOIL policy as amended. We'll do a roll call vote. Is there any further discussion on it before I do that?
No, from me.
Well, did you answer Eddie's question concerning if we have the FOIL or not?
I don't know the answer
Yeah.
to that. I promised to do the
Yeah.
research.
Either we are or we're not.
Right, but-
I'm almost positive we're not
Right.
subject.
But what I said was nothing in here is going to determine that. If you are, you are because New York state law says you are. If you're not because New York state law says you're not. There's nothing in here that's going to change what New York state law says in that respect.
We good? What other question?
No, it's still on. I think maybe we should get that answer before we do this.
Before we approve the FOIL policy?
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
So just push it to next meeting.
Nick, do you happen to know? No. Okay. You wanna push it off?
Yeah.
You wanna push it off?
That's fine.
Eddie? Okay, we still have to vote on this?
No, somebody needs to withdraw the motion though. Or I guess somebody needs to make a motion to table it.
I'll make the motion to table it.
Is there a second?
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the FOIL policy's tabled. We get an answer. Okay. Next one was a resolution to approve the expenditure of funds previously approved in the 2024 budget for the water vaults connecting the towns of Royalton and the towns of Shelby. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we, go through with the water vaults, since the money has already been appropriated.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we're open for discussion.
Did we get a report back from CPL on their findings?
On the water pressure?
Whatever the last, yeah, I think that's what the last study was for.
Yeah, that was the study he did previously on the water pressure that he gave us, that he presented to the board. He did the pressure test. We had adequate pressure, and he said to go ahead with the first vault, and that will test. We will be able to test the pressure and see if we need to go any further or not. Without,
So the last quote, the last submission we had where we had MRB and CPL, they quoted $4,000 to go out and do water pressure testing.
Yeah.
Did he give us a report back on that, or are you saying that was from the initial work that he did
that was it.
prior to the presentation?
Yeah, turn it on.
Yes, he came out and did the pressure check after we did the test, during the testing phase, when we opened up the Freeman Road. And we had adequate pressure for the area that we did. And then it was suggested to go ahead and do the second vault and maybe a third, and then we would be able to go farther. His theory was that we need to see how far we can go with that water, you know. When we get to a certain point, we just turn the valve off and then bring the village water around. So it's, I think you're looking for something that's conclusive, but it can't be conclusive until we take it there. But he did do the testing and everything was adequate.
And do we have a copy of that? I guess
Yeah,
that's,
you-
well, I didn't, we
When
didn't see
When
it.
Jason gave us our presentation, remember, he gave us the map, everything?
Yeah,
It was in
Pressure
there.
tests were in there. He
So
went
the-
over all the pressure tests.
okay, so the $4,000 that he quoted us for, he was just billing us for something he had previously done, because,
It's what he's going to do.
He's going to do. Yeah.
He's gonna protect us from, gonna protect you from me. He's gonna make sure that we
I
don't
think
go
you have that
farther.
backwards. Go ahead.
He's going to make sure that we stay within the limits of what we need to do. That's what's his proposal also.
So I guess my question, my question is gonna go back to, we are doing this in pieces, is that what we're saying? We're
Yes,
doing- okay,
yes.
so what happens if we get too far down the road and now all of a sudden, if we don't have the,
We back it up. There's valves all over the town. We
Yes.
open up some, we push the water down, we test, we monitor. If we can go a little farther, we go to the next step. If he tests and says, whoa, that's too far, we go back and turn the valve off.
so I guess, but we're spending almost $38,000 to put in a vault, okay? But we don't know how far that's gonna take us, so, well, first of all, let me step back. Who pays for this?
It's in my budget already.
But is it coming out of a water district, or is it coming out of, because it pertains to water, so, okay, so, but there's 12 districts. Is it coming out of you can't charge District 12 for District 1, right? I'm just trying to understand.
That's up to the board. That's not my job.
And if we're doing this piecemeal and we don't know how far it's gonna take us, we might be spending more on things
In the report,
without knowing whether it's gonna actually save money. I'm gonna go back to what Jim Hemingway said at the last meeting, which I've been thinking a lot about. And I think I've been trying to say that, but probably not in the best of ways. For a project to this magnitude, shouldn't we have something from start to finish? And we can do it in pieces, but we're gonna know every step of the way, if we keep going, that every step we're doing is cost effective. And I understand we have the money in the budget, but you budget for things that you think you might need. That doesn't mean you have to spend it if it doesn't make financial sense. So I'm just asking if we've looked at the big picture and we know that what we're spending is actually going to save us money somewhere. We're not gonna end up spending and only get 2 districts out of it, let's say.
you'll get more in 2 districts, but I can't give you a definitive.
But isn't that what the engineering study, that's what MRB was trying to tell us, that if you come in and you do the whole study, they'll tell you exactly what you're gonna be able to do and what the total
Even-
cost
even
is
if
each
That's-
step.
That's what,
Turn it off.
that's what Jason was alluding to, that another vault would give us plenty of pressure to go quite a ways. I don't have the definitive areas that you see, but you're looking at a significant portion.
But I wouldn't expect you to, but as an engineer, shouldn't he be able to tell us that? I mean, isn't that what they do?
It's pressure and flow. We're connecting to that 16-inch main, which is gonna a whole nother section of water coming into the system there. How big of an area did we test when that was open on Freeman Road? How much of the town?
We basically went from Freeman Road to 31 to 63 to West Shelby.
And the test and the pressures were
Adequate.
Okay, well, that was with just Freeman
That
Road.
was just one.
Okay, what's adequate,
Well,
adequate
the
is
parameters
relative,
at the
I
lowest
guess.
level.
Did people see a drop in their, whatever pressure they're getting now, was the pressure different under that method?
It was above minimums, is what
There
the
was
pressure
never
was.
a call,
Yeah.
there was never a concern in all the testing we did. We had more than enough pressure in the pipeline, and every home is reduced down to 40, 50 pounds in the regulator. We were above that all the way down through the transmission lines.
Okay, but that's, you're saying minimum. And what-
Minimum required by the state for fire flow.
Okay, but that's assuming there's no, is there a leak? Was there leaks that we have to worry about? Was Gary Roberts watering his fields at the same time? I mean, I just want to make sure, because I understand what you're saying, Dale, as far as what sounds logical, but I expect an engineer to tell me that.
It doesn't change any more than it does at the pumps in the tank up there. When Gary Roberts opens up his line, number one, it's a beneficial to the town because that's where we dump all the flushing water, so he draws it that way. We don't have a problem, when we have other farms that, dresser farms with the cows in the summer, we don't have a
But aren't they, isn't that because we have those pumps up there, or no? Don't those pumps pump?
This is equal to or exceeds the value of the pumps.
So is this water gonna end up pushed all the way to the east end of the town?
Well, that would be the best way, yes. Will it be? I cannot answer that.
Well,
The more you
the
have
people,
coming in, the farther you can go. The more horsepower you have, the more bottoms of plows you can haul. So, I mean, you've got volume coming in.
So during your test, we supplied half the town?
Not quite.
And how many districts is that? 2, 3 districts?
I would have to go back because they're all over the
Yeah,
place.
they're messed up.
How long was the test for? Like a day, a week, 2 months?
Month and a half.
And we had adequate pressure
Yes.
through that. And Jason says this is just gonna increase our pressure.
Yes.
And then he can get an accurate read on what
Then
we're
we
gonna
can
do.
give you the accuracy. We can give
And
you
even if we can't go any farther, this is gonna supply that half of the town with these 2 water vaults.
the more, I guess, the more that we can do, the greater the blend price would be. You know, the better the blend price would be.
is there pricing already established of what we're gonna be charging the residents, or what kind of
No,
cut?
because we don't know how we're gonna blend it. We don't know how many we can blend.
We're still in negotiations with Medina for a decreased rate. So once we get a hard number from Medina, then we can figure out, well, we're gonna do a flat, the plan is to do a flat rate for everyone in the town. And then farmers or, big water pullers will get a discounted rate off of that.
I am available all month long if anybody wants to come and ask me questions. It's all right there in the folder.
I'm just wondering, so if we were testing for, we'll call it a month and a half, so if we're getting water from Royalton for several districts, how are you gonna price that out now? Because you're only paying $3.
We're not getting water right now.
But when you were, there was a period you were getting water at $3 from Royalton, and so how are you gonna adjust people's water bills now?
I asked Jason, he's working on that number for us. Part of
Jason,
the,
oh, from CPL.
He's given us a flat rate number so we can, who do I hear keep talking?
And I'm not talking
Okay.
about the rate going forward, I'm talking
what
about
we-
for the rate of during the time period when they were being tested and you had
Yeah.
people on Royalton water.
I'll find that out for you. Rate. Well, even if we're charging their normal rate, we're covered on that.
Yeah, but the whole point of the taxpayers was you were gonna reduce their rate.
Well,
how-
we do,
so
you
you're
would
gonna
have to
pay
run a
3 and
test.
charge them 8.5?
You would have to run a test anyways, but I understand what you're saying,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
So this water with Royalton and Medina, is it gonna be commingled? I mean, are you gonna keep it separate, or?
It comes from the same source, but I'm sure valves will be closed because you're not gonna feed back into Medina, correct? Yeah.
Does every district have a dead end, Dale? Or do they, if they butt up to each other, there's a way you could shut a valve there where it doesn't?
Not every district has
Trying
a
to
dead
figure
end. Some of them are loops. I have a list of dead ends in my office.
I'm just trying to visualize if, so let's
It would
say-
be a lot easier to lay the map out, and I can show you a lot better if you're visual that way and
I am.
point out the dead ends.
You know, just off the top of your head, do you have an idea about how many dead ends that there are? I mean, you got Freeman.
8 to 10.
8 to 10 dead ends.
I'm just trying to, in my head, trying to figure out if you have 2 pipes that connect to each other and water's coming from Medina in one way and Royalton on the other, how do you stop them from pushing
Pressure.
against each other?
Pressure will do that. The higher the pressure, moves, the horsepower moves the water through.
Right,
So, and there are valves that if 80-pound water meets 70-pound water, who's gonna win?
well, that's my point, so if the 70, 50, 60, 70 is coming from Medina, you don't want Royalton water pushing back into
When
Medina,
Jason
right?
tells me we've gone far enough, you turn the valve off.
Okay,
so it
that's what I
doesn't
was,
commingle.
okay, that's what I'm trying to understand, there's a valve somewhere in there where
I would
where you
be-
can stop it,
It'll be
okay,
much easier to show you, Linda.
okay, okay. Can I do that? Okay. Well, I'm just asking the liaison if I can go,
I understand what he's saying. It's just that you
I
guys.
need to see it. Okay.
Now,
Okay.
what if there's a water issue with the PPMs? How are you gonna know where it came from? Where Village of Medina, or is it coming from Royalton?
That would be off the valve, right? Yeah, because you'll know which valves are closed.
It's gonna be our problem regardless where it comes from. If the PPMs are low, we have to open up a hydrant and flush until they're high.
And that, we would know which water it's coming from because of which valves are closed. We would know if it's a Royalton line or a Medina line.
Sure, once we determine the
Yeah.
terminus of each point, yes.
Okay.
Now, there's people on the east end of the town. Are they gonna benefit from this because they're paying the taxes for all this, and they don't even have water. They don't have water yet. There's no water lines over there.
I'm assuming everybody's gonna benefit from half-price water. I'm assuming everybody's gonna benefit, with the extra pressure, with the extra inbound.
On those when it doesn't matter if it's coming from the village or Royalton, it's where the dead end is where the PPMs have to be brought up.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's not one versus the other.
We monitored that during the test, and it was a lot better on Freeman Road. We did not dump like we did.
You got any questions? Okay. All right.
I got one more question here. I was looking on the Royalton website, and they had a resolution last night about Shelby's going to be paying $7,900 for engineering. How come our engineering doesn't have that included in it?
In the town of,
Royalton,
the water vaults are going in the town of Royalton. Town of Royalton had to do the engineering on it. That's included in this price.
So
So we're buying a water vault and paying for it, and it's going to be in Royalton?
who owns it?
We own it. You want to speak on that, Dale?
They'll just stay there for a while. Why? What's the benefit of that? Like, why?
Hook it up. It's easier to hook up from there, because there's no room when the pipe comes around the Ben Johnson Road and County House.
Okay. But we own it.
We will own the vault.
Is there any
pay for
liab-
the vault, we have to maintain the vault, just like we do with every vault that we have with the Village of Medina right now. Every vault coming through 31 on transmission line, we have to maintain.
Okay.
So we're responsible for that $8,000,
As we are with every vault here, I just changed the valve or a meter and it was over $7,000.
this is engineering though, parts are different, I think, but
Parts are different.
I would think it should have been included in,
No, he's saying it's the engineering bill.
Engineering.
For the stamped engineer drawings.
Doesn't matter which side owns it, we were gonna pay
Yeah.
engineering and they have access to their Niagara County Health.
We're just questioning why CPL did not have this in their quote to
Because
us.
it's in Niagara County,
Yeah.
it's been planned for Niagara County, they wanted it in Niagara County.
So this resolution is just for this invoice, it's not the 7,900?
No, it's
Everything.
total.
All of it?
The
Okay.
total was 48,039.
Okay,
Was for everything.
all right,
The
well,
vault and all the equipment that goes in the vault, that was all the parts. And that, it should be cheaper because you were downsizing a couple things?
Yes, we're
Okay.
gonna go from an 8
It's gonna be no more than that.
to a 6
48.
inch.
okay, but if you read the resolution from Royalton, it says that they authorize their supervisor to enter into an agreement with GHD Town of Engineers. So that implies the work has not been done yet. Why are we paying?
The engineering is done, the engineering has gone into Niagara County Health. It just hasn't come to
So
us.
do we have we should,
We don't have the money to pay for anything, so nothing comes to us.
Actually, we got the invoice today. Darlene sent it out to all of us. Is that
this?
Is that the invoice?
Yeah, so here's my question on this.
Yeah.
This says invoice, but in the top left corner, that's normally where the company doing the billing. So this to me looks like Shelby is billing the town of Royalton for $7,900. So that's,
another one,
yeah, that, because it says that the invoice is to town of Royalton.
Yeah.
And I guess I personally would like to see the invoice, well, did we get the engineering report? Do we have a copy of the engineering report?
There's no reports.
Or the design, or
Yes, it's all
what
in
did,
there.
whatever the 70,
Yeah.
it's not in here, is in here?
Not. It's in my folder.
Okay, I'd like to
What
see
dates
that
or what?
before we,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I think we should see that before we spend $8,000, and if they paid
It's
for
a
it.
drawing of a vault, and, right?
Yes,
That's all it is?
all it is the pipe coming in, all the internals of the vault itself, and the pipe going out.
so he charges $8,000 for that?
They charge $200 and some for a little piece of copper I hold in my hand.
It still goes back to when we wanted to see the MRB report, there was confusion about where it is. We should have a copy of every report that we pay for. I mean, really,
Don't look at me.
I mean, if we're
don't,
paying $8,000, you don't think we should have a copy of it?
It's an engineering drawing. It's not a report. It's an.
Okay, well,
it's a
the drawing then.
Yeah.
We should have a copy of the drawing if we're paying for it.
Do you have it in your office, Dale?
I'll be right back with it.
Okay, thanks. It's a blueprint of the concrete thing. I guess that's what it is. Okay. Do we want to? Can we? We're gonna just hold off on that one. Kathy's gonna talk about the foils.
So the opinions on the Committee of Open Government website suggest that if it is clear that the records are requested in the performance of one's official duties and the request is reasonable, then a board member is not generally required to resort to the Freedom of Information law to obtain records. So as long as you're asking for it in connection with the performance of your official duties and the request is reasonable, you're not subject to FOIL.
resolution to adopt the FOIL policy. Is there a motion?
The amended policy, right?
Amended, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Amended
okay,
FOIL
just wanna make sure that we don't,
I make the motion.
Is there a second? Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, so, we'll do a roll call vote. It's a resolution to adopt the amended FOIL policy, and then we have to do another resolution for the
Right.
three-member committee?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution to adopt the amended FOIL policy. Schiffer?
Aye.
Sykes?
Yes.
Lemonna?
yes.
Delaney?
Aye.
And Wengowitz, aye. That's carried. And then, resolution to adopt a three-member panel,
To appoint the town supervisor and the two members that you want to appoint to the three-member
oversight committee.
FOIL
Appeal.
FOIL appeals committee.
board. FOIL appeals board. Well, you're appointing, resolution to appoint the town supervisor and to be the FOIL appeals board. And to appoint Jeff and Ed as those two board members.
Resolution to appoint the town supervisor and two board members to the FOIL's appeal board, and to appoint Ed Zelani and Jeff Schiffer to act as the board members for the FOIL appeals board. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
No second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous, carried. I can give you that after meeting, Pam, the wording on that. Okay. Did Dale come back yet? No. Okay. We can move to the next one, okay. The next resolution was a resolution to support the continuation of lawyer and non-lawyer justices for the town of Shelby Court. Is there a motion for that?
So moved. I'll make a motion of it.
Is there a second?
I second.
We're open for discussion. Do I need to read this? No? Okay.
Unless you want to.
Was there a,
It was distributed to the board members, right? It's
Yeah.
what was presented at
Yeah.
the last meeting by,
they combined it into
The
one?
judge.
Yes.
I mean, you can ask if the board wants you to read it.
Do you guys want me to read this out loud? No? No? Jeff? No? Okay. Is there any comment on this? Okay.
Middleton has them because we did a design change. So this was the rough, which you probably don't want, but everything inside of it is on that one sheet. And, all it is a concrete bump box. See, the pipe goes in, the pipe goes out, and they list everything in the design, but we changed it from an 8 to a 6 inch, so we're redoing it.
Should we do a roll call on this? Or just a- All right, there's no questions on the resolution?
You need a motion in a second, though, right?
We did,
Did I miss that?
yeah, we were in discussion. discussion, and there was no discussion. For the public's benefit, it's a resolution for the district courts that Orleans County is trying to put in. And be it resolved, the members of the Town Board of Shelby support the continuation of the 300-year tradition of both lawyer and non-lawyer or lay justices presiding in the town courts. We want to keep the town justice here in the town, to keep our money here. So, we'll do a roll call vote. Schiffer?
Aye.
Seitz?
Aye.
Lemina?
Aye.
Zelini?
Aye.
Wingowitz, aye. That's unanimous carried. Okay. So that's done, those done, that's done. That resolution, freedom of information was passed. I got the result for that. Okay, so we're back to expenditure of funds for the water meter pits. Dale, when are you gonna get those? You want a hard copy of those, Linda?
I think,
Okay.
shouldn't our records officer have a copy of them?
She should.
Yeah, I just think we should have a copy.
Okay. Any other questions? Or discussion on this? We're back on the expenditure for the water vault.
I just wanna say, that I think we should be getting a complete plan before we keep moving forward in pieces. So,
Okay. You got any comments, Jeff? No?
Fine with what we've done. I'm okay with it.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Resolution to approve the expenditure of funds previously approved in the 2024 budget for the water vaults connecting towns of Royalton and town of Shelby. Schiffer, yes or no?
Yes.
Seitz?
Yeah.
Lemina?
no,
Zelini?
No.
Wangwitz, yes. Motion's carried. Okay. Board comments, Mr. Schiffer.
Oh, no, you need to.
What?
Yeah, that.
Oh, okay, yes. We don't need a resolution or anything, right? We just open it up for discussion.
Yes, I would say that you received that request
Okay.
and opened it up for
So the
discussion.
public knows we got a recommendation from the planning board. Town of Shelby board members, the Town of Shelby Planning Board would like to recommend that the town board place a moratorium on wind energy overlay zones, section 597, so that the planning board can review the regulations and make suggestions of possible changes. The Town of Shelby Planning Board would also like to recommend the town board place a moratorium on alternative energy systems, section 660, so that the planning board could review the regulations and make suggestions of possible changes. Kirk Myhill, Chairman. Okay, what do you guys think? I think we should do it.
Yeah.
It's a law we have to pass to do a moratorium. And we'll have Kathy draw up a law for that. What do you think, Ed?
Yep.
Okay. We don't need to vote on this, you just,
No, this is this is everything under 25 megawatts, right? Because the state
yeah.
pretty much controls.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Do we need, you're just gonna go forward with this now?
You should probably like pass a resolution
Okay.
to authorize me to work on a proposed moratorium for the
So-
continuation of the district board.
Resolution to authorize town attorney to draft legislation on for a moratorium Okay, we have a resolution to authorize the town attorney to draft resolution to authorize the town attorney to draft legislation for a moratorium on wind energy and alternative energy systems. Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call vote. Schiffer?
Yes.
Seitz?
Yes.
Lemonna?
Yes.
Zelini?
Yes.
Wengowitz, yes. Unanimous, carried. Okay, do you need a copy of this? Okay, so that's that. You guys got the updated list from Dan Wolf? Okay. Town of Shelby, freedom of information, this passed, right? Yes, this passed. Carried. Passed. Resolution for, that was passed. That was everything, right? Yep. Okay, board comments, Mr. Schiffer. Mr. Seitz.
I got a question for the highway superintendent. You had mentioned that, the flushing was better, or wasn't better, or was better after we joined and tried the flushing with, Royalton Water.
It was better for us. We did not dump near as much at that time.
Do you happen to have any idea about gallons or,
It wasn't non-existent, but it was close to it.
okay. Thank you.
Linda?
Yep, so at the workshop, we talked about a kind of a spreadsheet collection of data around the last 4 quarters of water.
Mhm.
And I emailed a kind of a template to the board. I don't know if that was something you use, or if not, if I could just get the information, I'll plug it in myself. But I think it's a visual that'll help us to see
Okay.
if while we're moving forward, if we're making progress.
Beth was working on the numbers for me today, so I
Okay.
should have those for you tomorrow, I would think.
Okay.
Linda. Ed?
I got a couple questions. First, update on inventory. Is there anything movement on that at all?
Not yet. We just finished with the comptroller this week. We'll install the new scanner onto her computer, and she'll get going on that. Hopefully we can have that done by, hopefully July. I'll keep you updated on that.
Right. Also, just an update on the MEOs and their status under Class 1, the ones that need it.
One's gone to school.
He's in school right now.
Yes.
Okay. The other two didn't want to do it, so.
Yeah, what kind of price was on that for the whole
It was
course?
like $3,000, right around $3,000. Because since they already have, they didn't have to take the whole course. They've
Right.
they call it a professional driver's course because he's already a driver. So it was like $3,000, right around that price. He's in the process of that right now. He's almost done with it, I think, right? Okay.
And how about scheduling workshops? We ran out of that. I mean,
Yeah, we're gonna do that. Let's see here. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Calendar, June, July, August. How about September 5th? It's a Thursday, first Thursday of the month. I don't have anything on my board.
So we're not gonna do anything this summer at all?
If something comes up, we can schedule something, but,
When does the budget process start?
it'll start, I think it's the end of August, the sheets go out to the departments for the dream sheets.
We should probably have a workshop unless we're gonna have budget workshops.
Kathy,
Well-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no.
Kathy, you had talked about kind of revamping that process. Is that something we should maybe have a workshop on and talk about prior to, so maybe we need to move it up prior to September so that we can kind of hash things out before we get in the middle of the process?
I think that makes sense.
Let's see,
So that was September.
So now we're gonna push back into August.
Um, I have the only thing I have open in August is the 29th. So we can do the 29th at 7 p.m.
What day is that?
It's a Thursday.
Thursday?
Okay.
Nothing after that, or are you?
We can schedule the next one after
Just
that.
play it by ear.
Yeah. Okay, in my calendar. Did you get that, Pam? Okay. 7 p.m.? Okay.
I just got one more question. I know Dale stated, or brought it up, that there's, on Furnace Parkway, I was contacted by, John Parada to take a look at it, and Dale's already got, soil and water coming, so, there's a little issue with the water there, so we could wait and see what they got to say, so.
Okay. You good? You good, Ed?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I just add one? Kathy, are you coordinating with Allied, or Scott, are you coordinating, when are we gonna see Allied come in and present at least the 22 audit? And
It'll be July, the board meeting.
they'll be at the July
Yeah,
board meeting?
yeah.
And is it just the 22 audit, or will they have 23 done too?
He might have the 23 done. I can't guarantee he will, but if he does, I'm sure he'll comment on it. Okay. Let's go into public comments. George, Bill.
Bless you.
Okay.
Bless you.
Yannick.
Hello. Just going off of what had came up when we looked at, the situation up there and coming through my property, or there's another, way we didn't look at before, is go right down the center of the parkway and go right through to where, at the end of the parkway, run the water off that way. Drop a pipe, and then you can take the pipe right out of my yard, and I will get no water from Furnace Parkway. It's something you can look at. Right, Ed?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, man. We'll check that out. And, okay. John Pratt?
Well, my
microphone. Well, my question was for Dale. He mentioned that he was doing spraying around the hydrants and vaults and all that stuff. And it's my understanding that they've got a four-wheel drive Kubota that was bought with water money back in the day. And that was what it was bought for, was to do the spraying. And I was just wondering if they were using that as it was bought for that, or if it just sits locked up at Mount Pleasant Cemetery in one of the buildings up there.
It's in the garage now, but I'll find out an answer for you, John.
That's what it was bought for. It should be used. It
For spraying? Okay.
keeps the spray from migrating to the driver and the operator and stuff.
Okay. Larry Waters.
Just wanted to touch a bit here on the, I was a little surprised to see the FOIL policy. I do have an active FOIL request in with the office. I did talk to Darlene about it. And it's 8 different items, typically geared towards District 1 water and the charges and the service fees, all the things I've been asking questions about for over a year now and have not received a satisfactory answer. Other than that's just the way it's always been, pay your bill and learn to love it. Therefore, I'm doing my own investigation. However, with this new FOIL policy, I count 39 different items on there that would negate, allowing me to share in this information. So I'm curious to see how this is going to pan out. The request was put in on May 31st. I did get advisement from Darlene that it was going to take up to 20 days to gather all this information, so I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the information and maybe finally getting answers to my own questions. There are no supervisory reports available on the website for 2024 at all. I understand we just endured a state audit, and I, for one, am chomping at the bit to read those findings and recommendations. Probably couldn't happen at a better time. I understand Mr. Schiffer and Scott, I believe, are liaisons to the village in regards to negotiating water rates. It was mentioned in the workshop last week that there's only been 2 meetings to that effect. Just wondering if there are going to be any further meetings. Have we completely thrown our hands up in the air and resolved not to work with the new administration in the village and alienate that entire process, which I don't think is a good idea, but from what I hear tonight, it sounds like that's what's happening. Curious to know if the audio recording's been removed from Darlene's office. And just a question on the resolution of the lawyer and non-lawyer. That is just, it's not a resolution to abstain from participating in district court. It's just to express the feelings of the town. They prefer to keep it local. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Larry. Jim Hemingway. Okay. John, I'll get you an answer on that. I know the four-wheeler's in the garage. I thought, I don't know, I thought he was spraying with the tractor. Okay, I'll get you an answer on that. Yannick, I'll find out from Dale what he's gonna do with that. Sure. Yeah, what?
We got these new monitors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Could we get this hooked up and start showing all this water stuff that we're doing? I mean, it's 2024.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Capability. We sit here and Dale talks about this and that. I could go out there and look, but we have the capability to put everything right up on these screens.
I agree with you. We're working on it, trying to get it working. Larry, the water meetings, we spoke with Jess and we decided not to schedule any meetings in the last couple weeks. Where's Larry? There he is. To give Marguerite time to start the new administration. I told Jess to schedule a meeting, so as soon as she's ready, we'll start the meetings up again. They're in the middle of their voting and all of that, so soon as, she gets back to me, actually, she texted me tonight, so I'll see. Let's see. Fixed flagpole, Darlene, copies. Okay, I think that's everything. All right, I, okay, come up to the podium.
What is the town doing with the mowing on Furnace Parkway? Are you mowing or aren't you mowing? Do I continue to mow as I always have? That was my question that I shot you in an email.
Okay.
Probably should have came out over the weekend.
Yep.
JLOA.
It probably got rejected. I didn't get the email, so.
Are you mowing or aren't you mowing? What are we doing?
It's a split decision. I know you personally told me, don't come up here and mow, and a lot of other people said, don't come up here and mow. We wanna do it, we've done it for 20 years. So that's a decision the board has to talk about, so. Some people want us to, and some people don't. We've never done it. We don't know whose property it is. I'm still having Trish find out, Julie find out, who owns that property. So originally, you people were responsible to the middle of the median, so we're trying to find out now who does that. And once we get the answer from the county, then we can move forward on that.
We're just, I hear two different sides of this. What are we doing? I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you guys are the.
That's something we're gonna have to discuss, and we'll probably end up having another workshop before, so. I appreciate it.
No, no problem. I mean, I don't have any problem with it. I mean, sticking a few minutes out there. My contribution to my community, back.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion, we end the public part of the meeting and move into executive session for personnel matters. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thanks, everyone. It was a good night. No, we ended the public portion of the meeting.
We didn't end the meeting.
I think we have to come back out and
Yeah, we didn't end the meeting.
Yeah, that was ending the meeting, ending the public portion of the meeting, going into the executive session.
I thought we had to come back out and end the meeting.
No.
Yeah, sure.
Let me get Marguerite. I can do that, right? All the other towns do that.